Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of the Double Header Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mahal, and today is Thursday, November 13th. The time of recording is 6:10 p.m. Pacific time. And we have got a pretty big, interesting episode today. My plan for this episode going into the day was going to be we were going to put out predictions for a bunch of the top free agents in the Major League Baseball and the MLB free agent class. So we're going to be projecting where each of those players is going to go teams-wise. And then I was just going to talk about some EPL stuff, talk briefly about the MLS playoffs. But some stuff happened. A bunch of news came out, especially in the MLS. So we're going to go over that news first and foremost. So we're going to be starting with soccer for the first time in this podcast history. It took us till episode 3. But, big news coming out of Major League Soccer. There were a couple different things that came out today. The biggest of which, if you don't already know, is about the league schedule and how they're going to run all of that type of stuff. So we'll start with that. We'll get into MLB free agent predictions after that. And that will be all for today's episode. We'll be back next week with hopefully we'll be able just to have something planned, have something prepped, and be able just to go ahead with it instead of sort of trying to flip it all around and stuff. But without further ado, let's get into it, y'all. So we're going to begin with MLS and the big news that came out of the league today. So the news that came out of Major League Soccer today is that there's going to be a new schedule in 2027. There were reports that this was going to possibly happen, but it was officially voted on today, officially verified and ratified, I believe, today. And it is now a thing. It's been announced by the league. It's been announced by all the different teams on social media. And if you want to just look at it, it's a big change. But I like it for various reasons, which I'll get into in a second. But the other piece of it is that there's also going to be a single table with all the different teams. There's going to be some divisions, I believe, within that, which is, sort of Americanizing how the Premier League sort of and a lot of those European leagues do things. But it's a lot closer to what European teams do with their football teams, which I think is a very good thing. And for league in the United States, obviously, that is trying to grow, trying to become a bigger thing. I think that the change of having your schedule now align with many of those top European leagues is a very, very positive thing. That said, I do have some questions with it. I do have some things where I'm like, this is a little bit iffy, a little bit like, I don't know how to feel about this. Let's just talk about it. So the change is in 2027 for the 2027 and 2028 season. MLS is going to switch to a schedule that begins in July, ends in May. Now, the caveat of this is that there's about a 2-month break from the middle of December to the beginning of February. This means they're not going to play games during the peak time of college football. They're not going to be playing games during the peak time of the NFL playoffs. And the biggest reason why they did this, it's not about either of those things. It's about the weather. There are all but 2 stadiums in MLS that are open air. All but 2 of them are fully open air. Those 2 are both retractable roofs, and only one of them is in a place that matters for weather, and that's Vancouver, British Columbia. So you look at it like this, right? MLS and the weather in the United States during the December and January months, especially in the Northeast and in the northern parts of the central part of the country as well, have a lot of snow, are very cold. It's difficult weather to play in. You think about Toronto, you think about New England, you think about both the New York City teams. You think about Minnesota is another one of those teams, Columbus, Cincinnati, all of those different things. Those are all places where it snows quite a bit during those winter months, and it's difficult to play. So first and foremost, that is why that winter break is there. Why the switch happened is because you want to align yourself, like I mentioned, with those European leagues. It allows you to have your transfer windows be synced with those leagues. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different because you are starting slightly earlier than like the Premier League does, but you are ending at a similar time in terms of when you include the playoffs. Okay? So, like I said, just to recap, July to the middle to end of May is when MLS Cup will be, with a winter break, almost like you're in school in the middle. Now, my problem with what has been happening in MLS is that you look at the postseason right now, right? Look at the MLS Cup playoffs that are happening currently. And you look at it, and it's like, this week there are no games. There have been 3-game rounds in the 2-3 weeks prior. And then you come back, you get the conference semifinals, the conference finals, MLS in 3 straight weeks. Having an international break in the middle of what you play your entire season to get to is funky. It's weird. So with this, you are avoiding having that international break be in the middle of your playoffs. You're now also avoiding having the World Cup be in the middle of your season like you're going to see coming forward. But for me, the thing is, you look at what the schedule is now, right? And you have a team that just got eliminated, like the Seattle Sounders, for example. That's my club that I support. They just got eliminated last week. They're now off for the rest of November. They're off for December. And you probably start training again as a team, if not in December, in January. You have games start back up in the middle to end of February. It is not a very long period where you are off. And now, MLS has made it so there's even less of a break in between seasons. Now, obviously, you have the winter break, which helps. But now it's, if you go all the way to MLS Cup, you now have June off and a very small portion of July before games start at the end of July and the beginning of August. That's tough for me to imagine, because you think about it as if you were a player, right? You play this entire season. You play a 9-month season with a slight breakdown in between, in the middle of it. But it's like a 9-month season, and then you get a month off where you're going to have to train and stay fit that entire time anyway. I think that that's really difficult for players to deal with. Now, obviously, these players know what they're signing up for when they're signing up to play and all of that type of stuff. When you're signing a contract, you know that that's what the deal is. But you look at a lot of these other leagues around the world in different sports. I think about football. Football's a really long off period. You have most of the spring, a good chunk of the summer, and then training camp starts in late July, early August, I believe. I think it's like July, middle of July maybe. You think about baseball, you get the entire winter off. Basketball, hockey, you get the summer off. Right? It's more than a month and a half that you have off from playing. It allows you to rest and recover your body. And the thing for me when I look at MLS is not only are you playing MLS games during this whole period, there's also Leagues Cup. There's also CONCACAF Champions League. There's also US Open Cup. There are so many different competitions that these teams have to play in. And I think that this schedule helps with a little bit of that balance, because you do have the break in the middle of the season, and that does help you rest and recover, be ready for what should be a really entertaining second half of the season. It's like a really long, extended all-star break, if you think about it in baseball terms. But it's tough. It's tough for you to be playing all of those games. It's hard on the body. And to me, I think about it, and it's like you're playing all these games, and say you go far in a couple, even just one of those competitions outside of MLS. And if you're going far in one of those competitions, you're probably doing pretty well in MLS as well. And your guys are getting beaten down, playing game after game after game after game. And if you don't have a super deep squad, it's game after game. It's 2 games a week for multiple months in a row. it's really difficult to stay healthy for that whole period of time, and you have to be peak fitness, obviously, because you are a professional athlete. But I do not envy MLS players for the amount of games that they have to play in a singular season. It's a lot of games. I do not envy that. And I think that's really rough. And I think that this schedule might help balance it out a little bit, especially with the winter break. I think the winter break in that way is a really good thing. But it's funky. And it'll be interesting to see now how much does the first and the second half of the seasons matter, and what does the playoff breakdown look at with your sort of divisions type of thing. And now you have this whole singular table. So what it's not just, the schedule. It's how many teams are getting in the playoffs, right? Is it half the table? How many teams are then getting into the postseason in May and playing in those games? And how much does each half of the season matter? And honestly, I think maybe a little bit less teams is a positive thing, right? Because then it means that entire season then matters. Each game matters. Because right now in MLS, it's like you can suck for half the season. You come back in the second half of the season, and it's like, okay, we go on this really nice run, and then you're in the playoffs, right? And the supporter shield doesn't mean this whole big thing, but I think now it means a thing. That means you're the best team in MLS as a whole. And you've been playing all these different teams. And I hope scheduling-wise they have it where you play every team twice. We play every team in MLS twice. I don't know if that's how it's going to work. I don't think that they're going to be able to do that with the amount of teams that there are in MLS, considering like there are a good number of teams. There's, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. There are 30 teams in MLS. That is a lot of teams. Actually, it might be more than that. Is it 33 teams? No, I think it's 30 teams. 30 teams. That's a lot. A lot of teams. If you play both those teams twice, that's 60 games. So is it you're playing 35 games maybe, and you're playing the entire league once, and then your in-division teams, you're playing them twice. How does that going to work? How's the schedule going to work? There are questions to be answered before the start of 2027. But I think this is a step in the right direction, and I like this concept from MLS, and I've seen some people not liking it because you're playing at the same time as these other American sports, and that's going to cause problems and stuff. And you're going to be playing in colder weather, and people aren't going to want to go to games as much, and I understand that. But soccer or football, as the countries where this sport is bigger than it is here, play with a similar schedule to this. And I think having your schedules aligned is a better thing for transfer stuff. It's a better thing for the look of your game. I think it's a better thing for the league. It's a better thing for the players. I think it's better in all of these different ways. And I think it's a great step in the right direction for MLS. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. It'll be interesting to see all of these different things. But I like this step from MLS. I think it's a step in the right direction. And I think it's a sign of MLS knowing they need to adapt and evolve with the times a little bit and become a league that is respected not just in the United States, but around the world. And I think this helps with both of those things. I think it's good for the game. On the Seattle Sounders, like I said, that's my team. The interesting thing I have with this is how does this affect the Sounders and playing at Lumen Field with the Seahawks and sharing that stadium? Because now Lumen Field all of a sudden has this really dull period during the summer, and the Seahawks and the Sounders are going to be playing games at the same time or at the same stadium during the same months. And obviously the winter break helps with that, but I wonder, we got reports that the Sounders were looking at a new investor to get a new stadium built, and I wonder if this might be part of why. because then you don't have to deal with sharing the stadium with the Seattle Seahawks during a good chunk of the season, during the first half of the season, really. So I wonder if that's a thing for the Sounders, where it's like, yeah, we want the soccer-only stadium, but also we want to not have to deal with scheduling with the Seahawks and all the football lines on the field during a good chunk of the season and all that type of stuff. I don't know if that's a thing. That's just me speculating, but I do wonder about that. And then last piece on MLS is that they are going to remove MLS Season Pass from Apple TV and just have games be on pure Apple TV, which, again, good move. Like, why have an extra paywall behind your league, making it more difficult for you to grow as a sport? Now it's easier to grow, and it's a good move. A lot of people have Apple TV already, so now it's easier to watch those games. So good move. Cheers to them. Well done. Moving on, let's talk baseball, y'all. Baseball offseason is underway. We're about a week and a half in. MVP got announced tonight. Aaron Judge. Shohei Ohtani is expected, unanimous again for him. Do I have any thoughts on that? As a Mariners fan, I will be talking about that next week on Tuesday from the Mariners' perspective. From a league-wide perspective, I understand why Judge won it. Just some brief thoughts here, but I understand why Judge won the MVP. As a Mariners fan, and as someone that watched Cal do it 100 and how many ever games I watched, 162 games, we'll say, of the season. It's not just about the stats that you can view and that are quantifiable, and the stats that are on Fangraphs, the stats that are on Baseball Reference, the stats that are on MLB.com. That's when you want to compare the two players. That's not just what it's about. And it's really difficult to compare them because for me, the value for Cal, beyond the 60 home runs and 125 RBIs and all of that jazz, it's he's switch hitter. He's playing the most difficult position on your body, on your mind, all of these different things. He's managing 2 swings. He's doing that. He's managing an entire pitching staff that was injured brutally throughout the entire year, and he's doing it at T-Mobile Park, the hardest stadium to hit in baseball. Those are not stats, per se, that are just numbers that you can go and quantify. Those are how do you, as a voter, as a fan, whatever you are, as a writer, how do you look at those things and how do you balance those with the overwhelming lead that Judge had in average, on-base percentage, slugging, OPS plus, WRC plus, all of these different things, WAR, F-WAR, B-WAR. B-WAR is not what you want to look at with catchers, but you get what I'm saying. How do you go and balance those different things? And it's really difficult to do. And as a Mariners fan, I have a hard time putting my direct opinion on it because as a fan of the Seattle Mariners and as someone that loves Cal Raleigh and sees what he does, and he carried my team to a division championship for the first time in my lifetime, of course, I think he deserves to win. But that's bias. And of course, Yankees fans think Judge should win, and that's bias. It's really, really difficult to quantify things that are not available in numbers on a piece of paper or on a website. And I think that's where the struggle comes in on giving it to Cal Raleigh. Because as someone that watches baseball, I understand that catcher is this monumentally difficult position to play physically, mentally. It means you have to manage something beyond just your swing. And then he's managing 2 swings with that. And then he's doing it at that stadium. And he's carrying this team to places it hasn't been in 2 decades. In near a quarter century. Again, these aren't numbers that you can just go look at on a piece of paper and be like, yeah, he leads in these things. So I'll leave you with that. I think both players deserved an MVP award because both had ridiculous seasons. So I cannot fault voters for voting for Aaron Judge. or voting for Cal Raleigh for that matter. I can't. Because if I were a voter, of course I'm giving it to Cal, but that's with a ton of bias. And if I had zero bias, I don't know who I would give it to. I'm not in that position right now. Moving on, we are going to do free agent predictions for 25 guys. Those guys are Alex Bregman, Kyle Tucker, Pete Alonso, Cody Bellinger, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, Edwin Diaz, Cedric Mullins, Max Scherzer, Munetaka Murakami, Kazuma Okamoto, Gleyber Torres, Josh Naylor, Eugenio Suarez, Luis Arraez, Shota Imanaga, Pete Fairbanks, Ranger Suarez, Bo Bichette, Ryan Helsley, Devin Williams, Willie Castro, Jorge Polanco, Ryan O'Hearn, and Trent Grisham. We are going to go top to bottom through these guys. I'm going to give you the team I think that they are going to sign with, and we will track this throughout the offseason. How many of these am I going to get right? I highly doubt very many, because this is a really difficult thing to do. But we're going to try. Let's start with third baseman Alex Bregman. I think that Bregman is going to be the splash for this team that is going to have one or two more shots at it before their team starts to age out of it. I think that he is going to go to the team that lost to the eventual World Series champions in the National League Division Series. He is going to go to Independence Town, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and play for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think it's going to be a little bit of a long-term deal. I think it's a good fit for him. I think that means Alec Boehm's going to then get traded. I think that's where Alex Bregman will end up. We've seen those rumors pop up here and there. And I think it makes a lot of sense for this team to make a splash here and do something that they've been needing to do for a couple of years, and go get another bat to supplement that lineup that needs a little bit of supplementing. Moving on, Kyle Tucker. This one's actually difficult. There were some that I had struggles with. Now, there's a team that's been dominating the free agent market over the past few years, obviously. I think they're going to continue to dominate. They're going to continue to add guys. I have them adding 3 guys of these 25 guys. That team is, of course, Shohei Ohtani's Los Angeles Dodgers. Tucker will go be the right fielder for the Dodgers. He's going to add to an outfield that desperately needs some help. And I think that is the fit that makes the most sense for me. And I think it's the team that's going to be willing to go pay above and beyond for him. I think that's where he's going to go. He's going to leave the Cubs. Cubs are going to need to fill some holes. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it. I think that is where Kyle Tucker is going to end up. Moving on, Pete Alonso, first baseman. He is going to go right back to Queens and end up with the New York Mets. Similarly, Cody Bellinger is going to go right back to the New York Yankees. 2 more guys that I think are going to go right back to their teams from the sweet Philadelphia Phillies. 1980 World Series champions Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto will stay in Philly and will add, alongside Alex Bregman, 3 big additions to that lineup, and they will help change the course of that team going forward and hopefully get them to places where they've been wanting to be for the past couple of years that they haven't been able to unlock. I think that those 3 guys are going to start to do it. Moving on, what's this? Our 7th guy. Edwin Diaz, Mariners legend, just got out of a deal with the New York Mets. I think he's going to go sign a big-time deal in a team that needs bullpen help, that has no problem spending money, loves to defer contracts. The Los Angeles Dodgers are going to sign Edwin Diaz, and I'm going to go from him being one of my favorite players in the league to being a guy, again, that I just can't like because he plays for this team that I don't respect, even though so many of their players I wish I could love. And again, I just can't because of all the goddamn deferrals. And that's okay. Moving on, we're getting to some of the more random guys. Cedric Mullins. I have no idea if this makes any sense. I have him going to the Cincinnati Reds. I think the Cincinnati Reds need to go add to the outfield a little bit. Center field's a place where I could see them wanting to add some defensive capabilities. I think in a ballpark as small as Cincinnati's, as great an American ballpark is, this guy might increase some production with the bat. I think Cedric Mullins actually makes a lot of sense for the Cincinnati Reds, and I think he's going to go sign a couple multi-year deal there, whether that's 2-3 years. I think he's going to go play where Ken Griffey Jr. once reigned in the outfield until he was hurt every other day. He's going to be a Cincinnati Red. Now, another guy that is going to stay with the team he was with in 2025, I think Max Scherzer is going to go back and sign another one-year deal with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think he had a great end of season, great postseason, and I think that they liked the leadership he brought, and they want to go compete for a World Series. They want to go back to where they were. Will they be able to? It'll be difficult. I'm going to say that. It'll be really difficult. But I think they need to keep some of those guys around. And first and foremost, that starts with Max Scherzer for me, at least first and foremost on this list. There's another guy that is going to be a free agent that I think they really need to sign, and we'll get into that guy in a second. But I think Max Scherzer makes a lot of sense for them. Continuing on. Munetaka Murakami. He is going to go to a team that is willing to take on some of the risk that comes with his profile and is going to be willing to go and pay the price that it's going to cost because he has this incredible power and all of that jazz. Munetaka Murakami is going to go join his Japanese brothers in the Angel City, and he is going to also be a Los Angeles Dodger. We'll see if he's good. Moving on to Kazuma Okamoto. This is a guy that's going to be a little bit better bat-to-ball skills. He's going to hit doubles, maybe some triples if he can get some speed. He's going to play DH, a little bit of first base. I think a team that makes a lot of sense with that fit. A team that could use a DH, that could use a guy that can spray the ball around and drive in some of those runners that they might get on. Drive in Rafael Devers, Matt Chapman, Young-Hoo Lee, and go rival the Los Angeles Dodgers. Okamoto to the San Francisco Giants. A couple guys that are going to also stay put with their teams from 2025. Gleyber Torres, he's going to go right back to Detroit. I think he had too good of a year there to leave, and I don't know if there's a whole lot of fits for him. I don't think there's too many teams that are going to be truly yearning for a second baseman where they're like, what are we going to get from this guy? But I think the Tigers like what they got from him. I think they're going to try and run it back slightly, add some more pieces. Like Gleyber Torres is a piece that they're going to want to keep. I think he's going to be the first signing of the offseason for the Detroit Tigers. Moving on to Josh Naylor. I'm a Mariners fan. I need this to happen for my own sanity. Josh Naylor will be back in a Seattle Mariners uniform for the next 4 or 5 years, because he's going to sign with the Seattle Mariners in free agency this year. Moving on to another guy that is going to go sign with the Detroit Tigers. This was a guy that played alongside Josh Naylor for the entirety, pretty much, of 2025. Eugenio Suarez is going to go back to where it all started, and he is going to be a Detroit Tiger and play third base for them. Add some power that is much needed in that lineup. Moving on to a guy that I actually had no idea where this guy's going to go. This was a really difficult one for me. We're getting into some of those really difficult ones, and I think Luis Arraez might have been the most difficult one of all of them. A guy that can DH, a guy that can play first base, a guy that has good bat-to-ball skills, a guy that hits for high average, who's a lineup that strikes out a little bit, might want some more average in that lineup, or maybe they're scarred from Masataka Yoshida. But Luis Arraez, he's going to go play in Boston. Maybe he'll have a tea party there, maybe not, but Luis Arraez will be a Red Sox come 2026. Shota Imanaga. Cubs don't want him anymore, or do they? Shota Imanaga will be staying in the Windy City and will be a Chicago Cub come next year, just on a cheaper deal than that of what he was going to have if they didn't decline that option. Another guy whose option was declined, Pete Fairbanks. And who is a team in the American League that could have used a little bit of extra bullpen help in the playoffs, and that might have helped them push it just beyond the edge, and they might have been able to clinch Game 7 of the World Series instead of giving up a homer? with 1 out, 9th inning. For their second of 3 signings on this list, Toronto Blue Jays are going to be signing Pete Fairbanks to help clean up the back end of that bullpen. Starting pitching, Ranger Suarez leaving Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's going to look for a new home. He's going to slot alongside one Logan Webb, and he's going to help the Giants push to dethrone the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League West, and he is going to be a San Francisco Giant. Another guy competing for the World Series this year, Bo Bichette, and he will go back to where he was competing for a World Series and be the shortstop of the Toronto Blue Jays. Ryan Helsley, another bullpen arm for a team that is going to need to make some splashy signings this year. You're going to need to add to a pitching staff that really struggled, and more so that's on the starting pitching end. But a team that underperformed in 2025 compared to what everyone thought they were going to do. The Baltimore Orioles are going to add Ryan Helsley to their bullpen in hopes that he can turn it around, that he can find it again, and be a key piece for them in the back end of the bullpen alongside the Mountain himself. Another guy looking for a change of scenery that has been a great reliever as recently as 2024. Guy that wore Seattle Supersonics kicks at the All-Star game. With a beautiful changeup, a guy that struggled in the Bronx this year, Devin Williams, will be heading to the Emerald City to become a Seattle Mariner in 2026, where he will get taught by that pitching staff. He's going to be a product of that pitching development, and he's going to refine it and become the guy he was in 2023 and 2024. Willie Castro, utility guy that had a fantastic first half of the year, goes to the Windy City, goes to the Chicago Cubs, and really struggles. Willie Castro going to be looking for a new home. He's going to find that new home with the New York Mets. Making a third appearance of a free agent from a specific team, Jorge Polanco, the third free agent on this list of 3 that are going to be leaving the Seattle Mariners. One of them already re-signed with the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners also added Devin Williams this offseason. But they are going to keep the likes of Jorge Polanco around as their DH for the 2026 season. They're going to keep the band back together and add to that bullpen and become a better team to hope to continue to win that division for the next years to come. Ryan O'Hearn, first baseman and a DH. A team that needs a first baseman and a DH, specifically a first baseman. He's going to go back to where he's from, back to Texas. He's going to join the Texas Rangers, who are going to look to retool a little bit this offseason. He's not going to be a super big, splashy signing, but he's going to be an addition for them. Final on our list, Trent Grisham will be going to join a team that has already made 3 signings. They've kept 2 guys around. They have added a big-time third baseman. Maybe the best bat on the free agent market this offseason. They're going to go add a guy that can go play center field from them and hit from the left side and help them look to dethrone the Dodgers in the National League. Trent Grisham will be joining the Philadelphia Phillies in 2026. We have made it through 25 MLB free agents. Ahead of this next year, we did it in under 14 minutes. Of these guys, how many am I going to get right? I hope for at least 5. Maybe we can get a 20% hit rate on this? We'll come back to this with every one of these guys that signs. But hopefully, we will get them right. That said, this is all for episode 3 of the Double Header Podcast. If you want more content from me, go listen to the On the Diamond Into the Deep podcast on Spotify or YouTube. But for now, thank you guys so much for listening. Till next time, peace, y'all.